Most students feel like they're aiming in the dark. You're told admissions is holistic, but nobody actually tells you what that means. So you don't really know what level is enough or what actually you should be building toward, right? In this video, I'm going to give you clear benchmarks for top 50, top 10 colleges. Plus, we're going to talk about what categories matter, what level you need to reach in each so that you're not guessing anymore and you're building towards a clear target. Let's start with the only part that is not subjective. That's the academics, okay? Every college shows you its 25th, 50th, 75th percentile scores, okay? That's gonna tell you exactly where you stand. So if you're below the 25th percentile, honestly, you're at risk. If you're at the 50% mark, you're safe. And if you're above the 75th percentile, you are in a strong position. So when we say your profile is good enough, this is what it means. You need to aim to be at least around 50% because below that, your whole profile will have to compensate for your academics, and that makes it a lot harder to get through, okay? At or above 50%, academics stops being the reason you're gonna get rejected, and that is an important piece of information, okay? You can check out the linked video on 13 academic myths. That'll give you a deep dive so you can know what academics are about because it's not just about grades. Stop thinking rank, start thinking acceptance rate, okay? Because once you clear your academics, the next mistake is kind of focusing on rankings to some extent, okay? Although we're gonna use that as our filter now. Because what does it really mean underneath, okay? Rankings can be built on so many factors and they change depending on like who the source is, right? Niche, Forbes, US News. So instead, what I think is very helpful, not whether it moved from 16 to 20, but what is the acceptance rate, okay? So that's gonna tell you how selective the process is. So a college with 50% acceptance rate means it admits 1 and 2. 25%, it accepts 1 and 4. But at a 5% acceptance rate, oh boy, it's only 1 person is admitted out of 20. And that's truly what's changing the level of complexity, right? So how competitive is it for you to get in? Not what the ranked number is, right? And that directly determines how strong your profile needs to be, okay? Also, when you look at acceptance rate, there's a few tricks because in-state versus out-of-state acceptance rates will be different. Even for international students, it'll be different. Even by major, it'll be different, okay? But the concept is the same. You want to know the number that relates to you best in terms of acceptance rates, because then you can truly see how competitive it is. The more competitive, the more you need to build up your profile, okay? By the way, I have a great video on creating your college list because the wrong college list can cost you your admissions. This will help you decide how to do it strategically, okay? There are some non-negotiables, okay? So I wanna tell you those 4 categories now. There's thousands of activities and they probably might be falling out of this as well. So admissions, however, is kind of thinking through a small set of non-negotiables. That's what we're gonna cover, okay? It's gonna be academic interest. This is about your direction, okay? So you might not have picked your major. Your work should kind of point somewhere, right? They don't wanna see that you're too scattered or that you're immature in your decision making. So your courses, projects, internships, research, you wanna show that you're moving toward a field, right? Not that you're completely lost in your thought process, okay? Watch this video without clear academic direction. Your application reads as passive and it often gets filtered out. This will give you a deep dive into that concept, okay? The second thing they're looking for is leadership. Please understand this is not about titles, okay? The core question is, because you were there, did something change? So if it's just title rotation, it doesn't help, right? If anybody could have run the same programs you ran and nothing changed, again, you haven't added value, okay? The third is community service. Again, not optional. US colleges are communities. They're trying to understand whether you will contribute to other people, okay? And it's not just yourself. That means consistently giving back your time, not just one-off volunteering, okay? And the fourth is honors and awards. And this is sort of your proof, okay? So almost all of your application is self-reported, right? Aside from what your teachers say, there's no confirmation, okay? But awards are basically that external validation. At lower levels, like when the selectivity is lower, meaning the acceptance rate is higher. So if they're accepting 50%, even school level recognition is enough, right? They're saying amongst your school, you did the best, that's great. But as soon as you start seeing acceptance rates of 5%, then the level of recognition you need increases, right? So they'll say that thousands of people participated, but only a few got in. Those are the kinds of awards they are now looking for, okay? Again, thousands of activities, some of what you do may not fall neatly into these categories, but that's fine. However, if any one of these four are missing, your profile is going to be incomplete, okay? By the way, if you don't understand how colleges are actually evaluating profiles, you are guessing. That's why I've broken the full system down step by step in the courses linked below. That should help, okay? Once you understand the four non-negotiable categories, the next question is, what level do you actually need to reach, okay? The benchmark is gonna change depending on the acceptance rate, okay? So when you have schools of 40 to 50% acceptance rates, if you're targeting this range, then your goal is simple. You need to be complete in the requirements. You don't have to be exceptional per se, okay? So academics, around the 50th percentile for the SAT, 3 to 5 activities, try to cover those 4 categories. So even top 50 colleges are not average, and most people are assuming this, but it's not true. These schools are admitting students still. You need strong grades, consistent activities, and effort over time, okay? The difference is not that the bar is low, it's that the bar is a little less extreme, okay? Competition is potentially less, so that means that if you're strong, it stands out more, okay? If you start with the assumption that the top 50 is easy, you're gonna probably underbuild your profile, so please don't do that. The United States has 4,000 universities, so the top 50 is a significant achievement. One clear academic interest, like maybe you're part of the economics club, you're taking an online course in basic finance or computer science, and you're doing an internship, right? A cluster of activities around a single theme showing that you have academic interest, some leadership, right? So what does this look like? Join an economics club, get an internship, right? You have a club president or house captain as your leadership role. You have one consistent community service activity or tutoring, you're doing NGO work, you're focusing on a local initiative over time, okay? And then please make sure for this top 50 level, you have at least one award, school level recognition. You can have a science fair award, an inter-school participation award, something that kind of validates what you've been doing. So this generally, the time commitment is 6 to 8 hours per week. And if you hit this level, you're competitive for this range, okay? So this is basically the baseline. Of course, the more you build up your profile, the more it helps, the more it guarantees that you're gonna get into that school. Let's look at the second target, 20 to 30% acceptance rate. Now the rule is gonna change, okay? You still need everything from before, but now think of it as that 2 of these areas have to be a little bit stronger than the baseline, okay? Let's start with academic interest. At the earlier level, this was exposure, okay? But now it should go beyond school. So maybe you're doing a research project, maybe you're doing an internship, maybe you're doing a serious independent project, okay? You can even be doing a structured summer program. So let me give you a few examples, okay? You're working with a startup over the summer, you're writing a guided research paper with a mentor, you're building something for a passion project in your field, but you're not scaling it to tremendous heights, okay? In leadership, you just needed that title. Now you need to really show that you have real deep responsibility, okay? That means you're managing people, you're running events, you're building something new, okay? So maybe you're organizing a statewide competition, you're growing a club's membership from 10 to 20 to 30. Maybe you're launching something new that's part of your passion project, right? Then there's awards, okay? For the 20 to 30% range, at the baseline, participation is acceptance, but now you want one of these awards to show like some kind of selection or distinction, okay? So maybe you can place the top 3 in a competition. Maybe you can qualify for a local, regional round, okay? Maybe you get selected into a more difficult summer program. So you might still have just 5 activities, but it's that these 2 of them are gonna show depth, they're gonna show long-term commitment, they're gonna show that you're building over time what we call consecutive growth, okay? So your time commitment is now gonna be 10 hours per week, and everything still looks like school level participation. This tier is not gonna work, so make sure you do extend beyond your tier. Now let's talk about the schools that are less than 10% acceptance rate. Let's say what the bare minimum criteria is and what requirements actually change. So you need one activity, that is stronger than the rest, okay? You don't need to be balanced, you don't need to be well-rounded, you need one activity that shows you have depth and that you're clearly stronger, okay? So this can be a high-level competition result, Olympiad qualification, strong selectivity with research validated through like a presentation or a publication. Maybe you have figured out a financial literacy project where you're showing impact beyond your school, right? You can check out this video about real passion projects for elite colleges. Without that passion project, it's hard for the less than 10% because again, a lot of kids are building something on their own, okay? Now, also if you want tier 1, it's good if you can get your academics to move up to the 75th percentile, but again, 50% is still safe. Your leadership, key responsibility, your community service, consistent, differentiated scaling, okay? Don't rely on being balanced. Again, that one standout activity, support it with 2 or 3 other activities. And your time commitment here will usually be 15 to 20 hours, okay? If all your activities are at the same level as everybody else, it just makes it so hard for those colleges to accept you. So try to make sure that one activity is being built at the extreme depth that we're talking about, okay? The simplest way you can think about it, schools with acceptance rates of 50%, you need to achieve the baseline that we discussed. You need to achieve all your bases. 25% acceptance rate, try to strengthen 2 to 3 bases, but they don't need extreme depth. And under 10%, you need one base that stands out beyond anything else and that shows real expertise, okay? So this video was not about a threshold. Most students think they're building towards top colleges, but in reality, they're only clearing the baseline for less selective. So what are the takeaways? Okay, this is not a checklist. It's not so objective, right? But I wanted to give you thresholds so you can understand based on the acceptance rate, what are different colleges valuing, okay? Most kids feel like, wow, I'm doing so much for my profile. But unfortunately, I see too many kids who are just clearing the baseline. And I need you to push a little harder if you think you're going to the top colleges. Most students in reality are not doing enough. And if you want, I have a video that helps go through some 30 extracurriculars and it helps you understand what activities are truly valued by fast reporting back to you how colleges actually evaluate different extracurriculars. Take a look and we'll see you in the next one.